All right, all right. Can I get a yer real quick? Yer? Try again. Yer? Thank you so much. I just want to make sure your attention was on us. You feel me? So welcome to the final panel. This is called Your Story, Our Future. So storytelling for social change. And I was hyped to see that the people that we had on this panel. One, everybody are change makers here. Everybody is doing their own type of impact in different sectors as well. So I'll introduce myself and then allow everybody else to introduce themselves to get us started. And then we're going to get into conversation. So just to start, if you have any questions, please start thinking about them. If there's anything you hear on the panel that you want us to lean into a little bit more, make sure you hold your question. We will get you to y'all in the end. Sounds good? All right, thank you. I appreciate the response. All right, so like they said, my name is Marquise Davon Richards. I am an educator, activist, and podcaster here in Philadelphia. I'm the host of the Keeping It a Bean podcast, which brings together culture, commentary, and coffee. So Keeping It a Bean, Coffee Bean, we out here. You'll see puns. Okay, thank you. You got it. So I'm super honored to be moderating this panel tonight, and I have a dope lineup. This bench is deep over here, so I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. Please make sure you give me your undivided attention. Thank you. Starting over here, Chris.
Hi, y'all. I'm Chris Hutton, health and PE teacher over in Camden School District, as well as a coach, strength and conditioning coach, and a personal trainer.
Hello. Hi. I know you're like, this little voice? Oh, my God. So my name is Tiara, but many may know my artist name as a Brilliant Nomad. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, mainly in photography, set design, and a bunch of other stuff. I'm the founder of Birthday Wellness Nonprofit, which we got the wellness going on in the terrace, so make sure y'all check us out. And we curate wellness events for Black and brown communities in the city of Philadelphia, and that's it.
Hey y'all, my name is Camille Smith. I'm a few things. I'm a chemical engineer, I'm a social entrepreneur, and also a content creator based here in Philly.
He said short, sweet, to the point. If y'all only knew, that was a very humble start. And that's just the iceberg, right? We gave y'all just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to get a little deeper than that and see what's underneath the water too, all right? Can you tell I was an English teacher? That's how we be moving, okay? You clapped it. All right, so again, this is all around storytelling for change. And so obviously everybody here wants to have a positive impact on your community. And so the first thing I want to ask you is, what inspires you to use storytelling specifically as a mode of social change?
I would say personally, in my own story, going through a lot of trauma, seeing a lot of trauma happen in the communities, especially in the urban communities, low-income communities. And being a school teacher in the communities, I felt like it's really important. So I became a part of a nonprofit called ODAP. It's Open Door Abuse and Awareness Prevention. So what we do is a violence prevention program for youth, making sure that we promote healthy relationships, taking a trauma-informed approach when we coach them. So we have like a summer camp. So I felt like that's a really big way where we can impact the youth and get them regulated, get them away from the city, so we can have more conversations and engagement. I think that's huge.
Awesome. So I'll kind of piggyback on what Chris said in terms of like inspiration. I think pain is a great inspiration if we're able to use it correctly and change our perspective around it, but then also joy. And my art has been super inspiring for me. And so I don't know if anybody's familiar with the concept. It's called Ikigai. It's a Japanese concept, which pretty much means like purpose or reason for being. And so that's when you find your mission, your passion, your vocation, and your profession kind of all in one. So it's something you love, something you can get paid for, something the world needs, and then something you're good at. And kind of finding all those sweet pockets kind of brings this like bliss of like, kind of like this light bulb. And so for me, that's been my art. That's been expressing myself through art and starting a nonprofit, doing photography. And so those are the things that kind of, or at least that's the vehicle that I use to share my story of just like what I've been through. So.
Oh, that's really, really dope. I love how you two made it like really internal in terms of how it happened, and then you really moved. And then Camille, something dope about you is like you were seeking community a little bit more. So can you lean into like how you utilized it?
Yeah, so in general, I mean, my love for storytelling definitely started from my childhood. I think my family always really pushed me to use my voice, whether that be, in times of trauma and times of joy. So I started storytelling, talking about my experience as a Black woman in STEM, and I literally just started making videos on the internet talking about how undergrad was not the best experience for me. But I was able to inadvertently create this community of Black professionals, Black STEM professionals around the United States and around the globe. And inadvertently, again, that tale of my grandmother saying, like, hey, use your voice, to talk about your experience, be vulnerable, has now created STEM Social, which is my organization. It's a hub for aspiring and established Black STEM professionals. So always just, trying my best to be vulnerable and communicate, whether that's through the trauma, through the joy, and now we're here.
Yeah. And I think it's important because thank you, one, for everybody naming these spaces. Like I heard spaces of joy, spaces of trauma, spaces of looking for community. But something I think each of you really spoke to and you really drilled the nail on is storytelling sparks empathy. That's something I really believe in. But storytelling not only sparks empathy, but it also makes people feel less alone, right? And so each of you had said something that stands out to me, that alludes to this idea of building community. Because if they can buy into you, then they're like, oh, there's another person who sees me. And so anybody who's ever felt like I didn't have somebody who understood me, I didn't know anybody else was going through this, oh, there goes that card. That's important to kind of see, because now you're just like, oh, there's a window into who I can be, right? And I say all of that because now it's making me think a little bit more around what are some impacts that you've had, right, in terms of your storytelling. And so is there a specific story or person that stands out to you as you think around what you personally have shared, and they're like, yo, I needed that in that moment? What was that like?
Yeah.
Okay, you can go.
All right.
Ladies first this time, huh?
Ladies first. That's what I was saying. Ladies first.
Now it's back to you.
Okay. Something I love to reference is, again, I started talking about my experience as a Black woman in STEM on the internet, specifically TikTok, and then I ended up pushing to Instagram as well. And I remember I was talking about something in junior year, a professor did something that I felt was unfair, just talking about it, right? And my comment section started to turn into, oh, like, I'm the only Black person in my major, like, I wish that I knew other people. And I'm like, like, such a common experience, right? But then what was cool was, as I was looking through my comment section, this one girl said that she was a chemistry major at this specific university. And then somebody responded, oh my gosh, I go here too. Like, I'm in the bio department though. Like, oh, actually, let's grab coffee, or like, let's, go to this specific like student center. So because I was able to share my story about something that, junior year, I'm frustrated, right? People were able to find each other, from that similar experience, and now, like, they're cool. Like, I'm a little nosy, so I did follow both of them, like, hey, like, what y'all doing? Can I come to campus and, like, get coffee? Like, what y'all doing, right? But storytelling gives you this beautiful medium to, like you said, create a space for empathy, and then eventually community and friendships, which has been super, super cool. So I love to be able to reference that, because it seems so small, but, like, we're actually fostering relationships and community so people don't feel so alone in their, day-to-day experiences.
That's really dope. No, thank you for that. Hey, back to you, Chris.
So yeah, when it comes to impact, and I think a particular experience for me and my story was in my past, I would say about 8 to 9 years ago, went through a situation of a false accusation and social injustice, and I had, who's not the founder of ODAP, she came and pretty much scooped me up under her wing. I went through a lot of mental and emotional trauma, and even physical. So talking with her and learning how to communicate, and how she just started off with, how do you feel? And that how do you feel was every day. And I think sometimes we miss out on using how do you feel, something so simple. And it went so long to now, let me make sure I'm asking that because that was a huge impact and change. It helped me start seeing my trauma. Like, oh shoot, I gotta actually think about how I feel. And now just making sure that expands that same question when you're doing that trauma-informed approach, and teaching or coaching whenever you're doing trauma work is so important. Learning the why behind what we go through,
No, I appreciate that answer a lot because I know we're both in education, and so like that's something I had to teach SEL, right? And so asking that question, like, how do you feel in this moment, or what do you need in this moment? And I worked at an all-boys high school, so they said, "What do you mean? What do I need? What do you mean?" Right? And so I have a question for the audience a little bit. Just start yelling out numbers. At what age were you first asked how you felt? Not everybody had to think about that for a second.
Somebody said today, just now.
Someone said today. Anybody got another age where that question stands out to them? High school? 4? Some people don't remember. Yeah. And so like I think that says a lot, right? Because we're not asking these questions all the time because life happens over and over again. But what y'all are doing is taking a space of like, yo, here's a simple question, here's a simple need, right? And how do we like lean into it? And these are things we probably don't even think about for ourselves because we're like, all right, let me get my 9 to 5. Now what am I eating? All right, am I going to sleep on time? Am I watching Real Housewives? What am I doing, right? Like da 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 da. And so you're really thinking around it. And so I would be really interested to see like you utilize art as well, correct?
Yeah.
And so in that, how's that fostering community?
Oh, in so many ways. And even just answering your last question too. So to give the short version, if you go on my Instagram, there's like a 5-minute video of like explaining how my anxiety taught me a valuable lesson, you know? So like the end of 2022, I was like just reflecting on my art career. It's been 10 years since I've been freelance, y'all. And so praise the Lord, because I'm here. We doing sets. So, you know, if you don't know nothing about that world, I don't got a check coming in every 2 weeks, you know? So when I get a project and it come in, it might be 3 months and nothing come in. And so I was just like reflecting, like, man, like experienced a lot of great things, you know, throughout the process, but also still experiencing a lot of instability financially and things, emotionally. It's a roller coaster to just be out here following your dreams and living by the spirit, you know what I mean? But you know, I was reflecting, I was like really down, and then out of nowhere, like January came, and I do a lot of work with like Google, so they called me like, hey, can you cover this event for the Grammys? Then my homie Christina called me, yo, I'm doing something for the Oscars, can you do the set? Like literally within like
Y'all heard the casual flex, right? Y'all heard the casual flex.
Literally, right? So, I mean, within a week, like, all these projects started coming in. And so there was a moment in the middle of that where I just like asked myself, like, T, like if you knew all these projects were coming in, how would you have spent these last couple months reflecting, right? And so I'm like, man. And so I just started kind of making this list in my head, like, well, I would have been chilling and traveling and just not stressing so much. And so, you know, I found myself back in the pocket. Projects wasn't coming in, but I had this kind of shift in my perspective, like, all right, we in a downtime, let's rest, let's go travel, let's go, you know what I mean, work on passion projects. And so it just taught me, like, that anxiety, when you're able to listen to it and be still, it's just like, yo, the high is going to come back up, you know what I mean? But when you are in the low, find a way to find a groove and live in the pocket and just stay present in the moment, because whatever is for you is going to come regardless. And what you do at that time, you can either, you know, just squander in the bed all day like I did, or you can find other ways to just like replenish yourself and have the energy to sustain the things and the blessings that are coming into your life.
No, I love that. I don't know, both of you look like you were ready to respond to something as you were going. Are you good?
I just think it's a beautiful thing that you were able to listen to your anxiety, because as someone that also suffers from anxiety, like, that's hard, you know? So the fact that you were able to listen to yourself and then be able to freelance for 10 years, like, that's so, how do you feel?
Calmer, like, it's still now when it happens, I'm like, okay, but now I know, like, I said to myself, like, yo, January is coming. You know what I mean? The bell curve is always going back up for you. So it's like, be present. And it doesn't mean that I still don't have my days where I'm like, man, bills due. Like, I need a project, but I don't give weeks and months to it anymore. You know what I mean? I'll give myself a day. I'll even give myself a couple weeks, and then it's like, all right, we getting up. We're going to go to the gym. We're going to call a friend. That comes with community, right? And expressing that. And I think, like you said, I'm a very empathetic person, and so strangers will walk up to me on the street and just like give me their whole life story. Like, you feel safe. I feel like I could talk to you, and I'm like, okay.
I feel that.
Yeah, so it's I wouldn't say a curse, but it's a gift and a challenge sometimes because you do have to protect your own energy in that. But I will say, because I hear so many people's story, it allows me to share my story freely because I know we all struggling with something. So no matter how we show up and we dress to the nines or we smile and we laugh and like, home life might be really difficult or your relationships might be really difficult. And so because I know these things about other humans, it allows me to just be like, hey, like, yeah, man, I'm struggling like financially, even though people may assume I'm doing this. I'm like, I'm not doing well, and it's okay to not be well because, like you said, we're not alone. You're not the only one struggling, whether it's finances, relationships, spiritually, mental health. Like, we all going through something, and so, you know.
No, I love that. If you ever see me, Dream Girls, it's like, Effie, we all got pain, so we got to figure that out all together. Okay. And so what I want to take this into right now is like, we have the storytelling aspect. We have this idea of building community. We have the emotional capacity. But you still have businesses and brands to run, right? And so I think sometimes when we get into the space of wanting social impact, people are sitting there like, all right, if you want to do social good, should you be making money off of this? Should you be using strategy? Should you be doing this? And so there has been this complication of an intersection of like social impact, but also has to meet capitalism in some kind of way as well, right? And so how do you strategically balance out telling your story, but also needing a strategy to be like, oh no, I need people to show up to my event, right? I need people to show up to this training. I need people to purchase my art. What does that balance feel like? Let's start with there. What does that balance look like?
That's such an interesting question. In all honesty, I feel like I haven't, because of the area that I'm in and because it's such a normal lived experience, especially for Black students, specifically at PWIs, or predominantly white institutions, for those that don't know. That in and of itself, that emotion that they feel when they come across like my video, my Instagram, whatever it is, our organization, like that in and of itself like pushes them to come. I will say when we branch into new cities, so like at September we're going to be going to 2 new cities, Boston and LA, which I'm very excited about. That it's more the strategy of it is just trying to find connections at schools or connections at organizations that are already on the ground that they have that community, just so we know that once our idea or our event gets on the ears of our target audience, like they're going to want to come. So I think for us, we're still very much prioritizing, we'll always continue to prioritize our community and the stories. And I think also in our social media, if you guys ever look, like it's very community driven. Like we're always having videos of people sharing their stories, what they majored in, why they decided to, would they do it again if they had the chance, like things of that nature. And I think that's what makes people want to come. I think because we've set it up that way, we don't even have to really fight with we're social impact through and through. We don't necessarily have to fight with the demons associated sometimes with like having to still get people to pay like for tickets.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Because they're connected to the purpose. They've been connected. So it's more like people are joining people aren't joining a thing, right?
Yes.
I think that's important to kind of note. So I appreciate you naming that piece. How do you two balance this out?
Yeah, I would say, man, it's tough. It's tough for me being a personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach, but I think I'm just starting to hit my curve and starting to understand, well, one, I can't balance anything without God. My Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, period. So that first and foremost, and understanding that, and I'm like, okay, I'm in the school system right now. Being a teacher, health and PE, now I'm working with youth so much, even in my nonprofit work, being a camp director in the summer, right? So just being around these teams, I'm noticing, okay, it's, balancing out the strategy my strategy has been really just these athletes, my youth right now. They need me in terms of, all that's been going on, the trauma. So, that's really been my balance and my strategy is really just, my athletes. But, also personally train adults as well, but it's really been my youth.
Right, because to me, what I'm also hearing, at least as I hear you two talk so far, it's also you have to you're utilizing your own personal story in order to be your marketing strategy, right? Because people have to buy into like the thing that you're talking about and be able to say, oh, I've identified this as an issue, which means this is worth investing in because there's still a problem that needs to be solved. And so for those of you that are interested in like this idea of social impact, you're like, first I gotta identify this problem. You two already said like, oh, I've identified an issue, so let me build community. Let me actually build a camp, right? And so I think those pieces are important. And so I'm gonna go to you next, but I want you two to start thinking around is like, how do you tailor your messages to different audiences? So you're not only just impacting kids, but you also have to impact potential funders or thinking around grants and stuff like that. So I want you two to start thinking around that as we hear a little bit more around your strategy.
Oh man, so I'm a firm believer in finding somebody else to pay for it, so I don't have to.
Period.
So I be out here looking for the grants. Yes, amen. Just looking for the grants, partnerships, to fund these things, but then also like, man, understanding value too. And when something is valuable, like there are people that's willing to pay for it. So part of that is like getting over that fear and like, man, if I charge this, like literally just this week, a homegirl reached out to me for a project and she asked me for a quote for it, and I like gave her a number and she told me like, I thought you were so much more expensive than that. I was afraid to approach you, and it made me like,
Am I charging enough?
right?
She said,
that
you call me
part.
cheap.
and sometimes that's this internal perspective we have, maybe because of rejection, and we're like, man, if I put this out there, people gonna come or not. But just learning that like, you always gotta show up first in your life. And I think when people see you showing up and putting in the effort, they'll show up and start putting in the effort of what something costs and takes. And that also is a part of vulnerability, of letting people know like, yo, this take this much to put on this production. Like, obviously as a business person, like you said, we can invite this space, but it costs for these lights. It costs, you know what I mean? This stuff costs. And then you also kind of have to understand when something is about money and when it's about something else. You know what I mean? And so I always believe like, get paid for something. When you get paid for something you're good at and what you're great at, you'll do for free. And so for me, that means that this purpose, I could do a wellness pop-up, I'll do it on the street, and I'm not thinking necessarily about the money. It's just like the heart of like, I gotta get this thing out of me regardless, and I'm gonna find a way. And I think from that passion and tenacity, God has a way of just providing, you know what I mean? It was like, oh, it costs this much, all right, you know what I mean? But I'm like, right. My heart at it is first like the impact, and like you said, and I think the resources will come.
That's really dope. Thank y'all for sharing that. And so, how do y'all choose? Yeah, no, you can stop for that. That was good. Yeah. Don't be hesitant. You give us your energy, we give that energy right back. So we appreciate y'all. And so now for you two, or for all three of you actually, like how do you tailor your messages to different audiences now? Like the people who are funding versus the people you're trying to impact?
Yeah, so I want to go based off what you just said. I think the main thing that I always think about is that the community that I'm building, I know how valuable it is. So similarly, like when I started putting on events, like I was just trying to break even. So I was like, all right, what ticket price, if everybody gets 3 tacos and then we do this event, I can do this and then, I won't lose any money. And I started building this community and it started like, blowing up. And then organizations like that I looked up to, like if anyone in the room knows like NSBE, like National Society of Black Engineers, that's great. For me, that's crazy. Like NSBE
that's
conference.
Huge. Congratulations.
Yeah, so they start, reaching out to me like, oh, I see what you're doing in these cities. Like, how can we collab? I'm like, okay. So other people see, it's valuable. So then when actual organizations are like, hey, we want a piece too, we know how valuable it is. So the fact that I've been able to, over time, because it definitely is a learned skill, I think, over time be able to say, hey, this is how much this costs, but also I'm looking forward and I want to continue to put on these events, so this is the price tag. You either going to take it or leave it. Because again, they know how important what we're doing is or what you're doing is because they reached out to you. Now, in the case that they don't necessarily reach out to you and you're still pitching to them, if you will, the same thing still occurs. Because all you have to do is show that value on paper, whether that's a pitch deck or, a 30-minute conversation. And again, it's sold. because you've been able to already show yourself the proof of concept of how important it is and that people are depending on you. So it's more a function of just how you pitch it. Now, when it comes to, I'll say, pitching to my community, I think my ability to build trust online through my own personal brands, that again for me has been a little bit easier. Because again, I'm the girl from TikTok that's laying in my bed in a bonnet talking about here's 5 things you should be doing to perform for performance reviews. You know what I'm saying? And people are able to comment, and I'm commenting back. It's consistency. It's building trust over time. And again, that does apply to brands as well. But I think there is a little bit of a difference between how I approach, brands or sponsors versus my actual community.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna put a pin in that real quick. 'Cause I'm gonna come back to y'all. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a little piggyback. I would say knowing and understanding the goal and intent.
Yeah.
Like with, whomever you're working with, and knowing the season too.
Oh, okay.
That you're in. I would say, like, just for instance, working with nonprofit. However, with me in training, the message is the same. It's consistent, right? What I'm doing with, my adult clients in training, I'm still, how do you feel today? It's the same. You don't change up anything, really. It's just, I take a student-centered approach, a client-centered approach. It doesn't matter. The message is the same. The value is there, but leveraging those major organizations, the nonprofits, and, just understanding your timing with that.
Yeah. No, I love these answers because as y'all were talking, it makes me think, as content creators, as people who are using our face of our brands, we're also professional oversharers. So like there is a space where you're like, oh, I have to share a little bit in order to build this level of trust, in order for people to buy into me. And so I'm thinking around like, what are some challenges that come along with that? Like I know me as a podcaster, people are just listening for my opinion on things, and it's just like, oh, I don't like what you said today, or yo, Marquise, I want to know a little bit more, and so they feel like there's this level of like attachment that they have, right? Because there's a perception that you know me through these parasocial relationships, right? And so for me, I understood I had to build a boundary. There online, you get Marquise Davon, but like Casey, Kelly, or Elijah are getting like Marquise, whose breast stinks in the morning. I want to talk to you for some coffee, right? Like, I love y'all. Thank y'all for being here. But I think there's a difference on like the level of accessibility, and so. How have you been able to kind of build those boundaries, or have you experienced challenges of sharing or sharing too much potentially? Oh.
Yes.
You said you in your bonnet in your room, so.
I literally had a conversation earlier. I think in full transparency, when I first started STEM Social, it was very much out of the selfish need for community. When I graduated, I didn't have any black friends in STEM, and I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm going to school. I was one of 4 black students in my chemical engineering class. I was one of 2 black women in my department when I started working. I was like, I need to find somebody. But now when I have events and I know that people are traveling, they're flying to events because we're not in their city yet, or they're driving far distances, I feel almost a level of like, I'm putting on for them now, So I think for me, something that I have that I have struggled with, and I'm still working through, is being able to set those boundaries. Because realistically, like, as someone that's working a 9-to-5 but also a founder, like if I run myself into the ground, none of it works. Like none of it happens, So like even when I'm out, Center City Sips, people will come up to me like, like Camille, I know you from. I'm like, whoa, wait a second, like hold on. Again, love you, but at the same time, back up a little bit. Hold on.
Leave some room, please.
Right. So again, whether that be they know me through social media, whether they've actually been able to come to events, I think that's something that I'm going to be trying to figure out how to navigate better. I would love to hear, how you guys navigate it too, because I feel, again, a level of, I want to be there for my community.
Look, that's valid though, but I get it, because like for me, I be out and I have 2 tequilas in my hand and I'm trying to dance. And I talk about politics and social justice. So someone said, yeah, I like how you talked about dismantling, blah, 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 blah. And I said, I'm a little drunky drunk. Can't do that, right? So it's just like, you got to find the right space and time. But and it's like, for me, I had to find a balance of like, I appreciate you, and I'm trying to just not think.
It can be a both and, as opposed to and or.
Yeah. So,
Yes, I would say I think I've been working on my boundaries just in that I don't share anything unless I feel safe enough or comfortable enough to do, which means I'm not necessarily always sharing or giving myself. You know what I mean? And I think like kind of in the social media content world, we're just being told like, hey, you got to post every day and that's being correlated to being consistent, but consistent doesn't necessarily mean you're doing that every day. You're posting every day, you're sharing every day. Consistency just means that you have a certain cadence when you do share and you stick to that integrity in that. And so I've found ways in like, outsourcing to a podcast. And so instead of me having all these one-on-one conversations with people that's deep and like you said, people want to know and pull stuff out of you, now I have one larger conversation on the podcast, and I'll just refer somebody like, oh, you know what? I was talking about that. Go listen to the podcast.
Listen to that right
you know
there.
what I mean? Because we can't talk about, so that's how, it's just a way I can safeguard too and just kind of keep that energy and like, all right, when I'm ready to share, maybe I can share it in this container where I feel safest and then give that as a resource to other people.
That's really dope. I love that.
Yeah, I would say like a boundary for me that I'm starting to incorporate is just not really giving my social media out all the time, like to everybody. Especially like, for me, I've noticed like constantly doing that. And I've trained a lot of high schools, especially a lot of the Philly high schools, a lot of students there. And then, I have a lot of students in the Camden School District too. And just noticing like who's in front of you. Right, that's very important, knowing who's in front of you, and then do a rhythm check with yourself at home in your personal space with your relationships, like my son,
That's good.
Or my fiance, right there on him.
Hey, fiance.
So
Congratulations, y'all.
Okay, come on now.
Yeah.
We love love. We love love.
So yeah, just I think that's a good indicator, like, because at first I wouldn't. Sometimes you just want to grind, in the work of it. You got this passion. So
that's valid. Alrighty, so I got my last question, and we have space for about 2 to 3 questions out in the audience. So get your questions ready. We'll try to call on you and give you a mic. All right. So the last question I really have, and I really love this question that they have, is what do you see as the potential for storytelling to shape our society in a positive way? I can give y'all some think time.
Well, I mean, I think it can go many ways. There's a lot of storytelling that's unhealthy, and that will continue to rise. And unhealthy podcasts will continue to rise, as well as healthy things will continue to rise. And I think we just find your lane and don't be afraid to. That's why it's so important. Like when you have a mission and a purpose to speak out, because you don't know what it is that you can be speaking against also, right? Like there's a balance in, I don't want to say good and evil, but just like wisdom and foolishness. And if the people who are wise really have something to say and something to give to the world, like now is the time to give it. We got all these platforms and social media, and like, it's a chance to use these things because people who don't have wisdom are using them. And if we don't say nothing against that, then like we just gonna let stuff run roughshod everywhere. So it's like it's important for the people who do have something valuable to give it. And whatever fears you got, like find a way to get through it because you just don't know who needs to hear what you have to offer.
And I love that answer, yeah. Because I know, like, now we know there's a bunch of podcasts out there. There's niggas with podcasts and then just, podcasts, we out here. But, the $200 dates. What?
Facts.
No. But it's something I struggle with a lot of time because I utilize my platform for storytelling. And so, like, I'm a kid who studied broadcast journalism and I studied theater. And what I learned in theater is, like, theater is probably the purest form of empathy because if I got to play a villain, I got to understand how did they get there, right? And so I try to use my podcast as a way to tell stories, but I kind of like drifted into, it started as social justice, and then I found myself in a cadence of like interviewing different black men in my life. And so many, as I was doing that with my show, I started getting other black women, black men, fathers, sons reaching out and being like, yo, you helped me connect with my son better. You helped me connect because I didn't hear this story before. And so there are conversations and vulnerability and there's power in that. But for me, I'm also answering the question. I found that the power of the individual story can make a collective change on how we look at, for my platform specifically, how we look at black men a little differently of like, what does freeness look like? What does public displays of vulnerability look like in a way that doesn't feel preachy? But you're like, nah, this is just my story and this is all, I'm just in a space safe enough to tell it, right? So I think it's different, right?
And to go off of that as well, I think storytelling is going to become, like you both said, increasingly important, especially that we have access to all these different mediums. But I think what I'm going to be intentionally trying to make sure that I'm doing is that, you know, if I'm very passionate, I'm very excited about a topic or I'm responding back to something, taking some time to, let's say, record it to whatever, and then let it breathe for a little bit. Because I feel like a lot of times we'll see those podcasts that are, you know, not the best messages and they're going up and they're really, you know, clickbaity and like that's fine. But like if people just allow their thoughts to breathe just for a moment, like literally, like I'm sure y'all have had conversations before that like you're angry with a friend and you take maybe like an hour or two to be like, am I really angry or am I hungry? You know what I'm saying? So like take some time to like let something breathe just for a little bit. And again, each individual story is still very important. And again, every narrative is not going to, you know, be the most pleasant for every person in the room, and you shouldn't want your story to be the most pleasant for every person in the room. But as storytelling continues to be important across platforms, just allow your thoughts to have the space to develop, and also give yourself the space of not being so definitive when you're speaking about things. Like my thoughts have changed so much as an adult, like post-college, like I won't say my morals have been the same, but like I don't know, I've had lived experiences, and because of those lived experiences, my feelings have changed. So just keeping that at the forefront, especially for someone that's a podcaster, you know, your art is gonna be interpreted by a bunch of different people, and I'm sure they interpret it in ways that maybe that wasn't your intention, you know? But giving yourself the space and giving ourselves the space to let ourselves be able to develop, and then again, storytelling will continue to be as impactful as it always has been, so.
That's dope, thank you for that. Last but not least.
Yeah, I would just echo. I was actually going to echo all of that. It's just the story piece, your own personal story. Everybody has their own personal story. And I would just say, first and foremost, like, you know, everybody's going to want to speak, right? I think using wisdom, wisdom's like on a continuum, you know? It's like, you know, it's really, you know, it's a line. Right? So, you know, more down this path is a little bit more foolish, more down this path is a little bit more wise. So it's like knowing and understanding when it's the appropriate time to tell it, right? But understanding that the target, who's the audience to, is huge. Like, I have youth in front of me. They need to hear it. They need to hear it.
The most impressionable.
They need to hear it. So, but then also, you know, reading the room and understanding like what's going on and how saturated it can be, and everyone might need some time. So,
no, that's valid. One, thank y'all all for answering those questions, and thank you all for also sharing your personal stories. Now we want to open it up to the audience as well. If you have a couple questions, is there an extra mic up here? Or yeah, oh, good looking out. We out here. So the mic's coming on up. I see right in the front, and then if there's any other questions, just make sure you get them ready.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, sweet. Thank you guys again for sharing your story with us. When I think about storytelling and personal branding, a lot of the process sometimes and kind of building that, you're crafting your story. And I'm sure you have experiences where people will come up to you and they'll say, hey, I want to do what you do. I want to create events. I want to be in different places. And it almost comes, sometimes it feels like you can get to a point where you're people are desensitized to the sacrifices that you've made to get to where you are going. So could you guys just speak through some of the, could you guys speak through some of the sacrifices that you've endured to kind of get to where you're at and how the journey to kind of get there?
Child.
that's a good question.
Right, you want some spiritual warfare?
Right, like
What you asking for? You want to talk about this is a different panel. That's a whole different panel. Man, you know what? Yeah, it's man, yeah, sometimes people don't understand the weight that comes with being you. And it's not even necessarily tied to like doing a certain thing, but just being you and the unique story, the unique trauma, the unique experiences and upbringing that you have. And so it's always going to be cheapest to be you. You know what I mean? So when somebody's like, how you do? No, you got to figure out how you do what you do. Because what I do probably ain't got nothing to do, you know what I mean? And just the time, the dedication, the prayer, just it's so many things that goes into what people could never understand that, you know what I mean, we may go through. But I mean, that's why I just piggyback on like really changing the perspective of your pain and maybe the path that you're taking, and accept the path that, you know what I mean, you may be on in your life, because it's not going to look like everybody else. It might be slower, it might be faster, it might be whatever, you know what I mean? And so, man, it's really hard to explain, though, just sometimes that weight that you might feel that maybe other people, even your friends and family, may not even understand. And so the loneliness that can come with that, you know what I mean? Where it's like you said, yeah, I'm having all these really cool experiences in my art and career, but like, because maybe my community or my friends aren't experiencing that, right? Because some of them are just like working their normal jobs, and no knock to nobody is, but it's like, they may look at me and be like, yo, you get to travel when you want, and just, but it's not just, you know what I mean, that it's always a cause for something. And sometimes you kind of having to bear the weight of like not necessarily having someone who can understand that can just be a lot mentally. So, yeah, man, it's be you. Yeah. Just be you.
I would
You
say
know
it's
what I
also
mean?
the sacrifice of what I realized part of my sacrifice is privacy as well, right? And so I think it's part of privacy and understanding that a lot of relationships that I've developed have become transactional in a sense, because people are expecting, like, they're like, yo, I'm looking for that good morning niggas and niggas only tweet in the morning. Yo, I'm looking for you to like give me guidance on what's going on right now, or can you talk around this thing? And so a lot of the time what I had realized, and I had to reckon with a little bit, is like, I give a decent amount. Like, people hear my thoughts, they looking forward to what they are. But I had to start thinking around, like, what are those moments that are meant for me? And so, like, people get to see where I'm at, the kind of spaces I occupy, what my opinions are on some things. But that transactional piece sometimes can feel dehumanizing. And so you're just like, no, actually, I'm just having a bad day. Like, this same time last year, I was in my sad boy era, but I was like, podcast, I still got to do this thing, I still got to show up, because there's a consistency that I've built and a trust I built with my audience. And so I learned to like give myself grace and be like, oh no, Marquise, you don't have to like produce, you can just like sit back. But sometimes it is like you have audiences depending on you in some cases, and if you don't show up on your Monday morning and people are like, where are you at? That feels off, because now they're checking on you, but is it checking on you, or is it checking on like, is the product coming? Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to double down on that. I think something that I wasn't even considering would be a sacrifice is exactly what you said, the fact that and it's so weird because my personal brand is me. Like, I'm very much the interested in everything, want to do everything, and even as like a kid, like my parents would always be like, like you can't do it, everything, like something has to give, and I'm like, no, I can be the chemical engineer, I can be the founder, I can be the homegirl that goes out with you, I can be, whatever you want, but me being myself has almost sometimes created people expecting all of that from me all the time. And like you said, like sometimes I'm sad, like sometimes I'm anxious, sometimes I'm angry, sometimes I'm whatever. So it's like, not only have I almost had to forego sometimes like presenting my emotions to others in like a certain way, like, or I have to almost curate my emotions in a certain way. Now again, can I throw those friends away? Sure. But like, it's like balancing this line of like, this is my personal brand, this is who I am as a person, but as a result of that, people feel that they can interact with me in a certain way. Or like, oh, okay, well, you've been traveling, you've been doing all this stuff, like, why can't you come hang out with me when you get home?
I'm tired.
Oh, but your flight lands at 5, my party starts at 7. And I've allowed them to. People do what you allow them to do. So I don't want to say it's everyone else's fault. Like, I definitely have played into it, but I think now I'm currently getting to a place that I'm like, I'm tired, and I don't want to go.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Amia Manri, and I'm a singer-songwriter. Hi.
The catwalk assassin. Stop playing with her.
Thank you. I have a question about, I guess, your relationship with money. I know some of you mentioned that you're running nonprofits or freelance, or when did you give yourself permission, like knowing that you have multidisciplinary talents, that you could, be trusted to either wait until resources are accessible, or like you see the need in the community and you want to make that impact? I guess, how did that relationship with money evolve?
Wait, so say that again, the relationship with money in terms of managing it?
In terms of whether you wanted to structure your business as a nonprofit, wait until you have partnership opportunities, like knowing that there are endless resources, but when did that anxiety kind of subside?
That's a great question.
That's a good question.
I mean, I think it goes back to value too. When you know you have something of value and you got to budget that thing, like that's another kind of sacrifice also too, just like financially having to be disciplined in spending and saving. I think it's unique too, especially for Black creators or creators of color, because we can't just write an idea down and slide it, on a napkin at a meeting. We actually have to do the thing, show the thing, show that we can get people out, you know what I mean, before we even pitch to people. And so that's something that I think when I do have certain ideas, it's a sacrifice of like investing into myself first, because unless you really invest in yourself and spend the money yourself, and it may, you know what I mean, like, nobody else is really going to believe you to give you more money, because they like, what, so it's a lot of people that like, I got ideas and this, like, we'll do it on a small scale, you know what I mean? Like, if you got an idea for an event like this, maybe do something with 3 vendors and just show that, like, you know what I mean? Like, show that you're doing something, and I think once you do that, finances, you know what I mean, can come, and also it teaches you, like, how to budget and how to be strategic and sending people 1099s, and it's, just the responsibilities that it comes with that. And that also means getting a team. So even if you're not as well versed in that, then like find people in your community that can come alongside you and help you with those things, so that maybe you can just focus on the creative side, and then you have somebody that's helping you produce on the business side that can, give you wisdom in that area.
I was going to say, so choosing my business structure was really hard for me. If I can also be transparent, I was doing STEM Social for like 2.5 years, and I want to say last year around June, my friends bullied me into being like, you travel around and do this full time and you're like generating money, like this is going to be negative for your taxes if you don't tell the government that like this is something, right? So understanding that, I was an engineer. I did not take any business classes. So I didn't know what I was doing. And the only thing I really knew was I had a few friends that were like in finance. So I started looking on the internet, and people always say like, there's so many free resources, but nobody tells you where the free resources are. But I was able to find this like mini MBA program, and like basically like it was like, you have a passion or whatever, let's, teach you how to make it into like a minimum viable product or MVP. And through that course, I found out about social enterprises. So we always think about like nonprofits or for-profits, which again, most businesses fall into those categories. But then you have kind of like this gray area in the middle of social enterprises. Now you can have for-profit or nonprofit social enterprises. But for me, that's where STEM Social fell. It was a organization that now is a for-profit organization, but it's so tied to its social impact that like that is what's leading us, So for me, looking 5-10 years in the future, I would love to eventually go full time. I think that'd be very cool. So I was trying to set the parameters for me now that hopefully would be able to benefit me in the future when I eventually take that leap. But again, that was me being able to find like a small program that was able to kind of help me find out what social enterprises were, because I didn't know what that was. I'm still honestly trying to figure it out. S Corp, B Corp, just corpse in general. I don't know, LLC, like, because also people just throw on LLC, and I'm like, okay, well, is that like the best thing that I should be doing? So I do think when it comes to finances, something I've learned now is that you should always, in my personal opinion, invest up front to make sure that your first step is a good step, especially when it comes to businesses. And also don't mix your personal and business thing, just separate accounts. Just don't mix them because it will mess you up eventually.
I'm learning that
I
the
did
hard
that
way.
initially, right? Did that initially, and then it got like hard when it comes to taxes and things. But we can talk after too. Again, I don't know a lot, but I have learned a few things over the past year and a half or so that I would love to be able to tell somebody else so they don't have to deal with the confusion. So, of course.
I don't like dealing with money. It's my least favorite thing. It's I hate it. I said I just want to do social good and just like make an impact, and like that's what it is. And I also realized like I have a full-time job doing college access work, and when I think around money, this is the first year I'm making a significant amount of money off of podcasting, and so I just solidified my 4th paid partnership this year within a lot. Yeah, we out here. Yeah, we doing it. Yeah. But it makes me nervous because I'm just like, is this my actual value? Should I have asked for more? Is this enough? And I got excited because I'm like, this is my first like big paid partnership. But in that moment, I was just like, what does this mean I should be investing in? How should I actually be using this money? How should I actually do this thing? And so that's the thing I think I was like most scared of. And so I don't have the best relationship with money. I get scared around it because I'm like, if there's too much, I'm like, cool. But I had to start shifting my perspective on podcasting, and like, instead of feeling like grateful and just excited, I'm like, oh no, they're investing in me. And so now I'm just like, oh, how do I continue to articulate my value better? And so what I learned is, 1, what can I start asking for now? I have a base to what I can ask for. But 2, how do I start monetizing more? Oh, you want me to speak at your thing? You got to pay me. Oh, you want me to do this partnership? Here's what this looks like. And using ad space now. So I'm looking at how do I make a certain amount of money by the end of the year, right? And so that's how I reframed from a podcasting and independent creator standpoint. That's how I've been moving now. Yeah.
Okay. So this is gonna be the last question. Okay.
I was just. All right. You all are doing great. Pleasure to be here. I just want to know what has been the pivotal point in your career, or the highlights of your career, and yeah, thank you.
Oh man, yeah, pivotal point, highlights. I would say honestly, this year has been really pivotal in highlighting. At the nonprofit for ODAP, we hosted 6 high school football teams in Philly. Oh, that's dope. And so yeah. So being a strength and conditioning coach, I was able to also being a camp director too this summer. That was a highlight, just seeing how much these boys really loved being there and away from the city of Philadelphia. Being out there canoeing, swinging out into the lake, playing jailbreak late at night, 12 to 1 in the morning. Coach Chris is up, looking around, looking for me like, is he up? Like, yeah, it's curfew, go to bed, you know? But yeah, it's nothing like that, seeing a host of young men, young males that, you know, they come to you and just in a little moment as they're leaving, thank you for this, I love this. You know, it's real touching, it hits your heart. You know?
So my pivotal switch was I went to school for math and computer science, and I was in programming for like 5 years, and I hated it. Like, I was making good money out of school, but every day I was like, I gotta go here. And I knew, I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my life, you know? And was there, like I said, 5 years, and in that interim, like, started to get into art more, and then I got fired from my last programming job. Because I was like, I would be in a break room putting in screen print orders while at work. And like, programming is one of them careers that you gotta be focused on programming, and you can't like have no room for anything else in your life. And that was just, I was chasing all these rabbits, and I got fired eventually. And I had like a 6-month period where I was just like, it just seemed like nothing in my life was working at that time. things that I was like trying to force, right? Whether it was like being what I thought other people wanted me to be or go down certain safer career paths. And man, I just remember like praying like, I like this art thing, but like, what am I supposed to be doing? And, you know, for me, I feel like God eventually like let me on that path, and I've been on it 10 years, you know what I mean? And so that was definitely the turning point and a pivot to like leave security and go into the unknown and go into the dark. And now we got a lot of lights. You know what I mean? So, you know, we here. But yeah, that was my pivotal moment.
Yeah, I think my most pivotal moment was actually earlier this year. So again, we have a bunch of different events around like the United States, and we have two different types of events. We have events specifically for Black women, and then we have events that have all Black people in STEM. And we were going down to DC for the first time, and I was like, all right, like this would be cool. And it sold out, which was super exciting. I was like, all right, cool. Like, now granted, I do like to keep my events intimate because I feel like networking events can be so off-putting, even as a very outgoing person, because you're not really meeting nobody in there for real. But we really try to cap them so that we actually can facilitate people meeting people, right? So it wasn't just the fact that it sold out. It was the 15, 20, 25, 30 DMs like, like I didn't get a ticket. Like, can I buy a ticket? And I'm like, no. Because again, for us, our brand, intimacy is one of the pillars. So again, if I let all these 35 people that I've been posting about this every day come to the event, you know, that's also hindering to a certain extent the people that actually were coming. So that event happened, and then we just had another event in DC back in June, also sold out. But all those people that missed it the first time, they had their notifications on. So again, I was able to meet those people at that event, and they're like, oh, like I missed it the first time, but like I made sure I was on my P's and Q's the next time that you drop tickets. So I feel like now we have a legitimate supply and demand. And like, it's almost like eventually we're gonna be like, you know, Beyonce puts out like her tour dates, and you have 2 days to figure it out. Now again, our tickets aren't that expensive, but you have 2 days to figure it out because we have a demand, and we have, you know, the fact that our organization is really prioritizing intimacy and actual connections. So I feel like I'm currently in my pivot, which is very exciting. A lot of emotions, but yeah, I'm excited about it.
Nah, that was dope. Yeah, I think a highlight had to be, I had so much time to think about it. I think it's just the everyday conversations I get from my platform. I think that to me symbolizes like such a highlight and a pivotal moment, because I found that other Black men specifically were taking the podcast and actually recommending it to their boys and recommending it to their family members and recommending it to their sons. Like, that to me felt important. I said, you know, I'd be cussing up a storm on that show. Like, I'm sorry in advance. But to see the amount of people who have invested in the show and have also just been like, yo, this conversation, I had this conversation over dinner with my family. Like, to me, that's important, because now that feels like I'm in somebody's home and I'm like positively impacting how they're interacting and reshaping how they're looking at Black men, looking at Black boys, Black male identifying peoples. Like, that's so important to me. And so for me, once I had realized, yeah, people know me for the social justice stuff, but to see the power of what storytelling actually did and changed people's like relationships to like family, like that to me was pivotal, because I was like, cool, let me continue to do this piece. And that's always gonna be the core of the work that I do. So though it started out in one space, it evolved into more. So yeah, I think it was the little everyday wins. Yeah, so we out here. But yeah, so real quick, I want y'all to give a round of applause to this panel. They were dope as hell. Yes.